Hello, everyone. This is Andreas Pop Culture Guy. Today is another latest Andreas Pop Culture Retrospective review, and it's on Superman 2. Superman 2, the 1980 or 1981, depending on its release of international markets, is a superhero film directed by Richard Lester for the original director cut. Of course, the Donner cut is directed by Richard Donner. If he was allowed to direct Superman 2. Of course, it was written by Mario Puzo and written by David and Lisa Newman from the story by Puzo. Uh, and of course, this is the second installment in the Superman film series during the 1978 through 1987 run. Now, it stars, as always, Christopher Reeve as our Man of Steel, aka Superman Clark Kent. Of course, has Gene Hackman back as Lex Luthor, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Terence Stamp as General Zod, Ned Beatty as Otis, Sarah Douglas as Elsa, and Jekyll Holland as Non. Now, Superman 3 is picking up where we saw in the beginning of Superman 1, with the three notorious villains, General Zod, Non, and Urso from Krypton, who have been serving in prison in the Fantasy Zone. Now, in Superman 2, they are set free by the chance of the Hundred Bomb Blast that was in the terrorist attack that Superman stopped. Meanwhile, Lois Lane realized that her timid coworker, aka Clark Kent, played by Chris Reeve, is actually Superman. Superman takes her to the Fortress of Solitude, retreat to celebrate and consummate their love in 80s fashion way, I guess. I don't know, but that they're embracing their love for finally after with the secret identity being well, well, being revealed to Lois. But prior to the Kryptonian law, he gives up his powers. Superman gives up his superpowers so he can be in the relation with Lois. But meanwhile, the Kryptonian supervillains take over in town and proclaim their dominance or domination over Earth. So Superman returns to the fortress to restore his powers and then battles the trio, who are now being advised by Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, who has escaped his own prison. After the trio smash most of Metropolis, they are outwitted by Superman, who chooses to retain his powers despite his love for Lois. Now, overall, I think Superman 2 is a successful movie just like the first one. It is the most entertaining and exciting live-action Superman adventure to date. It delivers plenty of the slam band action and a hearty dose of amusing sight gags, and wonderfully endeared take on our hero's love life. Top-notch scripting and direction elevate the sequel above other depictions of Man of Steel, which is a good thing. It's definitely close to a perfect Superman. Now, the major difference plus success of Superman and Superman 2 was its emphasis on its character Superman and his challenges. Now, for the first one, it dealt with more of the extended origin story and sketching of the central characters that are important to Superman's life, and plus uh, giving the detail on our hero superpowers in general in that first film. But Superman 2's success and difference is it cuts to the chase by introducing the concept of superpowers from the last film we saw, Krypton. And getting Lois and Superman together right away is such a good and then I think logical conclusion to the sequel coming into this film. The key elements distinctly Superman 2 are its whimsical sense of humor and excellent pencil. Superman 2 is a sequel to the 1978 live and the question is it heads and shoulders above the original? Mm, Maybe. It's a tough question. I still like the first one, and it's definitely tough. For me, the movie in general, Superman 2 has more of the summer blockbuster format of witty dialogue, fast-paced attitude, and playful sense of humor. Prefers the superhero saga with enough action. With the fluent humor and fast pace, they are also able to compre- uh, comprehend the Superman sacrifice for love. Now, the viewers can enjoy this movie's elegant attitude towards many hallmarks of the Superman mythos, while also appreciating the date between Lois and Clark and the villain's dominance on Earth. This film does, however, deal with the mature themes of world domination, crime, love, heroism, and sacrifice. And Superman 2 begins in a midstream and never looks back, aside from a brief recap of the first film and the opening credits. In many ways, its repeat of the last 90 minutes of the first film has some key characters, including the archvillain Lex Luthor, and continues the love story of Lois Lane and Superman, not to mention the strange relationship of Lois and Clark Kent's bundling timid relation in the Daily Planet. It features the return of the two villains from Krypton as well, who then last seen trapped in the one-dimensional planet of the Phantom Zone. It continues those remarkable special effects as well from the first one. This movie, the most intriguing insight is that Superman's disguise as Clark Kent isn't the matter of looks as much as the mental attitude. Clark is disguised not by his guts, but by his ordinary attitude. Beneath his meek exterior, the person is concealed a superhero, and the movies subtly hint that the kids are all. Now, the direction of the film is credited by two men, which I brought up earlier, Richard Lester for the director's cut and Richard Donner in the Donner. Now, but overall, their efforts, their work is mostly indistinguishable, whichever one of them cut off the top of the Clark Kent's head in the early scene wasn't being careful, though Ken Thorne's music is perfect for marching band, but too loud and distracting for this movie. And I do enjoy Ken Thorne's iteration of the John Williams Superman theme. It remains the only movie because we could do this sort of thing well. Anyway, the special effects are more updated and then in crises. Or the special effects are pretty good, I would say. They're still good like the first one. But they are more convincing enough for the truthful, uncritical on this movie wants to please. Given the behind the scenes craziness and given the behind the scenes craziness and tense of the producers and Richard Donner went through during making of Superman 1 and 2 simultaneously, with Richard Donner being fired, having shot about 70% of the script to be replaced by Richard Lester. And rather, now, for me, this is something I think it's impressive that's also different and says of Superman 2 is how good the end product was. The end product should have been barely coherent a mess, like the level of Joss Whedon cut or the Fan Force. But it isn't. Instead, somehow Superman 2 is the most exciting comic book ever made back then in the 1980s. Sure, in hindsight, you can see the points, but somehow Lester's more freedom style matched well with Donner's quest for reality and love for mankind, which is great, leading to a truly epic and animated tale, which Christopher Reeve propels Superman is confronted with three adversaries from Krypton, led by Darren Zod, played by Terence Stamp. Each is powerful as he is. Meanwhile, the film is also focused on the battle with Superman's heart, the Margot Kidder's version of Lois Lane, which is great and is also heartbreaking towards the end. In this case, above all, I highly recommend watching Superman 2. It's a great film. I still love this movie. It has great dialogue. I mean, Neil before Zod, iconic line from this character. Overall, I highly recommend watching Superman 2. And the Donner card as well. So everyone, thank you so much for joining this awesome Andreas pop culture retrospective review.